This episode is brought to you by Espolón Tequila. Slow, sticky, snoozy. They call these the dog days of summer. But Espolón? They don't do boring. Welcome to the Marg Days. Espolón Tequila. 100% blue Weber agave, born to shake up your summer. Just add lime, agave, and a little attitude. Visit espolontequila.com. Espolón Tequila, 40% alcohol, volume 80 proof. Copyright 2025 Campari America, New York, New York. Drink responsibly.
At New Balance, we believe if you run, you're a runner. However you choose to do it. Because when you're not worried about doing things the right way, you're free to discover your way. And that's what running is all about. Run your way at newbalance.com/running.
It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Talking the news with Noam Laden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noam
on 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me. Good morning. It is Monday, August 11th. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. Sunshine, warmer than it has been. The high going to be 89. Tonight and overnight clear, low 71, and then Tuesday sunshine, high 90. If you're walking out the door with us right now, 71 and partly cloudy in New Rochelle up in Westchester County, 66 partly cloudy in Pompton Lakes over in New Jersey, and it's 69 and clear right outside our Midtown studios.
The top 5 at 5.
It was a bad end to a Bad Bunny concert for a New Yorker. President Trump, President Putin will meet face-to-face. A shark in the water in Westchester. Water is scarce in one part of New Jersey today. And a West Milford girl goes global. All right, let's get into it at 5:01. A mother and father in Queens in mourning this morning. Their 25-year-old son was shot and killed after a Bad Bunny concert in Puerto Rico over the weekend. Someone shot him and killed him. They don't know who yet. Kevin Mayers was shot. This was Sunday morning at a night spot that's popular in this seaside town. Police say he was just an innocent bystander. So he had gone to the concert. He had dropped off his longtime girlfriend at a hotel room. They had flown to Puerto Rico from New York City to see Bad Bunny. And that's when the shooting took place. Here's his parents talking about it yesterday.
They were walking, and then across the street, it was like a bunch of people arguing, and they start fighting each other. So one of them, they took out a gun. So he started shooting like random, and
my son was across the street and he got shot in the abdomen.
Yeah, that was his parents back in Queens who got that horrible phone call a little bit later in the day on Sunday. His girlfriend, she's okay because she was back in the hotel room. His parents had warned Kevin not to venture out too far from where they were staying, that things could potentially get dangerous.
We told him just stay in the hotel, and that's in the resort, and
but
don't go
young,
out.
You know, when you're young, sometimes you don't think.
Yeah, well, that's true. So last night, the mayor's family getting a lot of support from loved ones, surrounded with photos and happy memories.
He was a lovely son. He cared about all of us, his family, friends. He has a lot of friends who's really gonna miss him too.
Yeah, in fact, apparently he was getting ready to ask his girlfriend to marry him sometime this fall. The mayor's family hoping for an arrest in the shooting that detectives told them also wounded a man and a woman in their 40s. Not clear if they were the target of the gunfire. They are desperately asking the Puerto Rican government to get his body back home to Queens as quickly as possible. We don't know about those arrangements yet. Right now, it's being held in Puerto Rico in the ongoing investigation there. 5:03, let's bring it back home. A 17-year-old in custody on murder charges following a shooting in Times Square early Saturday that injured 3, including a tourist. It was just one of a number of violent incidents across the city that saw at least 10 people shot over the weekend.
It began Friday night when a 45-year-old man was fatally shot in the back in Sunset Park, Brooklyn. 3 more people were shot in the West Farms neighborhood in the Bronx Bronx early Sunday, leaving one in critical condition. 2 more suffered non-life-threatening gunshot wounds early Sunday in Bushwick, Brooklyn. And in Cypress Hills, a 23-year-old man was fatally injured when he was shot in the shoulder. I'm Larry Kofsky, NBC News Radio.
There is new information this morning on the death of that carriage horse that collapsed in Midtown earlier this week. A necropsy has found that the 15-year-old horse named Lady likely suffered an aortic rupture believed to be caused by a small tumor. An aortic rupture is considered a silent killer because it tends to just, come out of nowhere. Lady collapsed and died on 51st Street and 11th Avenue in Hell's Kitchen on Tuesday afternoon, prompting animal rights activists to renew their call for the city council to pass a bill banning horse-drawn carriages. It's called Rider's Law, named after the horse that died 3 years ago, also in Hell's Kitchen. The carriage horse driver in that incident was recently acquitted on animal cruelty charges. 5:04, let's go over to New Jersey, where the Beth El congregation in Rutherford undeterred over the weekend. So you'll remember on Friday, early Friday morning, I was telling you about this during the 5 o'clock hour, that a synagogue there completely burned to the ground. So the investigators still don't know what ignited the fire, but they do not think it's criminal. And why that's important in this story is this synagogue was actually firebombed back in 2012. They don't think there's anything criminal here, but they don't know what started the fire. But over the weekend, there's nothing left of this building, by the way. The Beth El congregation put up a tent, and they held a service outside where their building used to be.
The town next to us, Passaic, gave us the Torah, gave us the Ark, gave us the book so we can pray. Yeah,
everybody coming together for this synagogue. Officials with the Bergen County Prosecutor's Office arson squad believe, again, it's not criminal. But what we watched over the weekend was nice. It was neighbors helping out neighbors. So the rabbi and his 3 kids and his wife, they lived in this building where the synagogue was. And so they were chased out by the flames, and a neighbor took them in.
He said, he told me, you always told me I could come by the house anytime there's a problem. Well, there's a problem. So he came by, his wife came by, holding a baby. The 3 little kids were there. And they were all just distraught. So I said, stay here as long as you got to stay here.
Yeah, so just a neighbor took them in on, that was Friday. They're already making plans to rebuild Beth El.
We will survive, we will rebuild, and we will come back strong.
Doesn't matter if you're Jewish, Catholic, Protestant, part of the neighborhood.
Yeah, that community in Rutherford coming together. One of the tallest subway platforms in the city is finally getting an elevator.
State Senator Andrew Gennardis made the announcement in a social media video where he said the 90-foot stair climb at the Smith and 9th Street station is like Mount Everest for everyday commuters.
We're lucky that the escalators are working today, but if you use a wheelchair, push a stroller with a child, or just struggle to get around, you might not be able to even get up these stairs.
The Gowanus station servicing the F and G lines is just one of 60 stations getting accessibility upgrades. The MTA credits congestion pricing for funding the agency's capital plan. I'm Liz Radabali for 77 WABC News.
508 MTA says it has even more proof that crime is falling in the subway, even as ridership goes up.
The agency says subway crime fell 8% overall last month versus a year ago, making it the safest July on record. Robberies saw the biggest decline, down 16.7%. At the same time, more than 3.8 million people passed through the turnstiles, compared with 3.4 million in July 2024. MTA Chair Jenna Lieber credits increased night patrols, additional security cameras, and increased mental health outreach for bringing crime down. I'm Larry Kofsky.
WABC News Time 509. Let's go down to Washington. President Trump meeting with Russian President Putin on Friday in Alaska to discuss an end to the war in Ukraine. White House correspondent John Decker, he actually spoke with the president about this upcoming meeting.
The president told me that he's optimistic about reaching a peace deal involving President Putin, representing Russia, and President Zelensky representing Ukraine.
Now, President Trump has not said for sure if Ukrainian President Zelensky will be involved or not. President Trump sometimes says here that he's trying to make a deal, that all sides will come together.
The president has always been an optimistic person. And so sometimes his optimism masks, the realism that it's going to be difficult to reach a peace deal between these two leaders, between these two countries. It's been a thorn in his side since he took office. This is one of those conflicts that he has not been able to bring to a successful conclusion, a peaceful conclusion, and that has frustrated the president.
Everybody weighing in on this. The NATO secretary saying the meeting on Friday between President Trump and Russian leader Vladimir Putin could be an important step to ending the war in Ukraine.
Next Friday will be important because it will be about testing Putin, how serious he is on bringing this terrible war to an end.
The NATO secretary saying the meeting will have several key points.
It will be about territory. It will be, of course, about security guarantees, but also about the absolute need to acknowledge that Ukraine decides on its own future, that Ukraine has to be a sovereign nation, deciding on its own geopolitical future.
And he says NATO will be rooting on the president in a big way because nobody so far has been able to bring the two sides together.
Donald Trump, the president, wants to end this. He wants to end the terrible loss of life. He wants to end the terrible damage being done to the infrastructure in Ukraine. So many people losing their lives, so much damage being done.
Let's go from the war between Ukraine and Russia to the war in the Middle East. The office of Israeli Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu says a call was held with President Trump Sunday about their plan to go into Gaza.
According to the Prime Minister's office, the two discussed Israel's plan to take over the remaining Hamas strongholds in Gaza. Netanyahu also thanked Trump for his support of Israel since the start of the war. It comes as many of Israel's allies have been calling for a negotiated ceasefire in Gaza to secure the release of the hostages and to help resolve the humanitarian crisis in the Palestinian territory. I'm Mark Mayfield.
At 5:11, let's bring it back home out to Colorado. A wildfire raging in western Colorado, one of the largest in state history, and it's still growing this morning.
The Lee Fire, southwest of Meeker, had burned over 88,000 acres by Saturday morning. Latest estimates Sunday morning say the fire has spread to over 100,000 acres and is only 6% contained. Authorities have set up evacuation zones south and west of the fire, which is now the sixth largest in Colorado history. Officials say high winds and dry conditions are fueling the wildfire, which is so large it's creating its own weather system. I'm Lisa Taylor.
From Colorado to Baltimore, Maryland. Boy, is the violence sort of never ending in this city. A 5-year-old girl among 6 people who were hurt in a shooting there.
Police say gunfire broke out during a gathering in the northwest part of the city Saturday night, not far from Pimlico Racecourse. 5 adults and 1 child were hurt in the shooting. The child was shot in the hand, and one of the adults is in critical condition. Police say they have no information yet on the suspects or their motives. I'm Jim Forbes.
The battle over redistricting in Texas continues. Texas Governor Greg Abbott ramping up pressure on Democrats who have fled the state so they can't hold a vote on redistricting. In an interview with Fox News Sunday, the governor said the threat of arrest for those lawmakers will remain for as long as necessary. Now, those Democrats, they've left the state so they can't be arrested.
If they show back up in the state of Texas, they will be arrested and taken to the Capitol. If they want to evade that arrest, they're going to have to stay outside of the state of Texas for literally years.
Now, the governor has said it's within his authority to keep the Texas legislature in a special session indefinitely. Now, the Democrats' plan was to leave for 2 weeks until the legislative session is over. Democratic lawmakers left the Lone Star State to keep Republicans from having the quorum needed to redraw the state's congressional maps in their favor. Here's more from Greg Abbott.
The law in Article 3 of the Texas Constitution, where they are required to act on bills because they're violating that constitutional mandate. That means they are not fulfilling their oath of office, and they can be removed from office.
Some of those Democrats came here to New York. Others, Democratic leaders from Texas, have gone to California, where they joined Governor Gavin Newsom for a press conference where they tore into President Trump.
It's not about lines. It's about drawing a line, and it's all about elevating the deeper consciousness of the line that Donald Trump continues to cross. It's not about him playing by a different set of rules. There are no rules for Donald Trump.
Texas Democrats are collaborating with Newsom as Republicans aim to gain 5 more seats in the Lone Star State. So now Governor Newsom's proposing to temporarily shift California's redistricting power so they can switch some seats there.
The Republican Party is nowhere to be found on that, but we're not going to unilaterally disarm in the state of California. We tried to lead by example with an independent redistricting commission, and we are looking at temporary measures.
Yeah, so everybody over the weekend talking about this. Vice President J.D. Vance defending the GOP-led redistricting efforts in Texas, saying they're necessary to ensure fair representation.
We're just trying to rebalance the scales and, frankly, push back against a very unfair system created by the Democrats. They have tried to rig the game for Democrats and against Republicans. And thankfully, under President Trump's leadership, you finally see some spine.
Yes, so you have California, you have New York, and now you have Illinois all talking about switching Republican seats to Democratic ones if they do this in Texas. Here's Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker.
Standing up not just for their own constituents and for the people of Texas and their rights, but also for the rights of people all across the country, because what Greg Abbott is doing and what Donald Trump is attempting to do is to cheat.
All right, so how this battle ends, I don't know. Awfully interesting. We do not know. In a moment, the search is on in the White House for a portrait of former President Obama. We'll tell you about that in just a moment. But first, 5:15, let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk. Happy Monday. Good morning, Justin Ellick.
Happy Monday. Good morning to you, Noam Layden. Start here in Buffalo on the gridiron. Rookie first-round draft pick Jackson Dart's preseason debut was promising in the New York Giants' 34-25 win over the Buffalo Bills on Saturday. The outing overall provided the Giants an encouraging glimpse into not only their future with Dart, but also their present with veteran Russell Wilson, also making his playing debut. The 36-year-old Wilson, New York's anticipated season opening starter, was efficient in running the Giants' quick strike passing attack by going 6 of 7 for 28 yards in an opening drive, ending with Graham Gano's 53-yard field goal. Dart, New York starter in waiting, closed the half by displaying his arm strength and mobility, finished 12 of 19 for 154 yards, including a 29-yard touchdown pass to Lil Jordan Humphrey, hell of a name there, while adding 3 carries for 24 yards. Giants third-stringer Jameis Winston led 3 second-half possessions and went 7 of 11 for 62 yards before Tommy DeVito, he's still sticking around, mopped up by going 10 of 14 for 73 yards and an 8-yard touchdown pass to Jonathan Ward. Up next for the Giants, they'll hold 2 joint practices with the Jets before hosting their Big Apple rivals come Saturday. And speaking of those Jets, they beat up on the Packers in Green Bay on Saturday night. Final score 30-10. Quarterback Justin Fields ran for a 13-yard touchdown to cap a 10-play, 79-yard drive in his lone series. The Jets outgained Green Bay 403-188, forced 4 sacks, and had 2 first-half takeaways that led to 10 points. To the diamond here in the Bronx, Yankees fell handily to the Astros 7-1 in their series finale against Houston, dropping 2 of 3 over the weekend to the AL West leader. Starter Max Fried allowed 4 runs and 8 hits in 5 innings and lost for the 3rd time in 4 starts. Yankees managed 3 hits and lost for the 7th time in 9 games, and they were booed after the final out. Manager Aaron Boone was ejected for the 5th time this season after arguing a called strike on Ryan McMahon in the 3rd inning. The Yanks now sit 2.5 games back of the Boston Red Sox for 2nd place in the division, and they're only a half game up on Cleveland for the 3rd and final AL wildcard spot. Up next for the Yanks, Will Warren will get the start in tonight's opener of a 3-game series against Minnesota. First pitch there, 7:05 p.m. from Yankee Stadium. Out in Milwaukee, the Mets lost 7-6 to the Brewers in the finale of that 3-game weekend set, suffering a series sweep at the hands of Milwaukee in the process. They lost their 7th straight game and fell 5.5 games behind NL East leading Philadelphia. They currently sit 1.5 games up on Cincinnati for the 3rd and final wild card spot. And they are idle tonight before opening a 3-game home series against Atlanta starting tomorrow. That is your Sports Noam, and I'm Justin Ellick on 77 WABC.
The official portrait of former President Obama is now reportedly out of view from thousands of White House visitors.
That's according to CNN, which obtained a photo of the Obama portrait now hanging in a corner at the top of the stairwell of the grand staircase. The portraits of former President George W. Bush and former President George H.W. Bush have also been moved. CNN also reports sources said the moves were directed by President Trump. The area where the portraits are now displayed is heavily restricted to the First Family, Secret Service agents, and a limited number of White House staff. I'm Lisa Carton.
The man accused of fatally shooting 4 in a Montana bar last week finally captured over the weekend.
He is apprehended just west of Anaconda, near the Ranch Bar, just south of Highway 1.
That's Montana Attorney General Austin Knudsen, who says several law enforcement agencies helped locate and capture Brown. The 45-year-old had been on the run since he allegedly gunned down 4 people in a bar back on August 1st.
Today, I'm grateful to report that Michael Brown has been apprehended
arrested and is in custody.
The bartender, 3 patrons were killed. Montana Governor Greg Gianforte announced that capture over the weekend of this Anaconda shooting suspect. COVID-19 is making a comeback.
New data from the CDC says the coronavirus appears to be on the rise in the U.S. A CDC update posted Friday shows wastewater activity for COVID-19 is at a moderate level nationally, up from low last week. Data showed COVID wastewater levels are the highest in the western part of the U.S., including Alaska, California, Colorado, Nevada, and Utah. The CDC says wastewater monitoring can detect a virus's spread within a community faster than clinical testing. I'm Mark Mayfield.
Yeah, but clinical, is anybody doing those tests anymore? I mean, if you go to the doctor or hospital with something, they'll give you a test. But does anybody do those home tests anymore? I don't know. My guess is probably not. Astronomers say they've discovered a distant black hole estimated to be up to 300 million times the size of the sun.
A study published in the astrophysical journal Letters found the oldest and most distant black hole at the center of a galaxy considered to have formed around 13.3 billion years ago. The discovery could shed light on the universe's earliest days and provide insight into how black holes and galaxies evolved. I'm Brian Shook.
Lawmakers across the country feeling the heat from pro-Palestinian protesters who've been showing up at congressional offices across the country over the weekend. Civil rights, religious activists demanding action from South Florida Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz. They were holding what they called an emergency pots and pans protest to protest what's going on in Gaza.
The politicians need to hear from their constituents at the lowest level possible, at the closest level possible to their districts, that the majority of their constituents are not okay with the state of Israel starving Gaza children.
That's somebody from CARE, the Council on American Islamic Relations. Congresswoman Wasserman Schultz, the focus of this protest, they say she's too pro-Israel.
We cannot tolerate any country to impose a famine on any people they are at war with. That's not America.
Some people would argue with that theory, but there was a lot of these protests at congressional offices across the country over the weekend. 5:23, Jen Powell. Now the first woman umpire in Major League Baseball history, and she's from West Milford, New Jersey.
She took the field during Saturday's doubleheader between the Miami Marlins and Braves in Atlanta. Paywall then made even more history by calling Sunday's series finale behind home plate. The game's first pitch was called a strike by Paywall. Braves pitcher Joey Wentz tossed the historic baseball to the dugout for it to be authenticated by Major League Baseball. A major milestone. I'm Lisa Carton.
5:23, while we're talking baseball, a local Little League team. They're a pretty big deal in their town on Long Island.
Fans of the St. James Smithtown Little League Bulls were left heartbroken following a tough 12-1 loss to a team from Fairfield, Connecticut.
It's crazy that they made it this far, and they worked so hard for this.
Everybody, including myself, is just absolutely so excited for these kids. They're real professionals, and we're so proud of them.
Audio courtesy News 12. Throughout their run, locals packed into Suffolk County bars for watch parties. Manager of the team says despite the loss, the group had a great run. I'm Liz Radabali for 77 WABC News.
WABC News Time 5:24. If you ask members of Gen Z, they'll tell you that love is very overrated.
A new dating survey by matchmaking service Talkify says 46% of Gen Zers would choose long-term financial stability over romance, and almost 1 in 3 said they'd even take back an ex if that ex got rich. The survey also found that 1 in 10 Gen Z women say their ideal match should make $200,000 or more, and most won't settle for less than $80,000. Millennials, on the other hand, have no problem with a broke and magical relationship, with 59% choosing love over financial security. I'm Rob Martier.
WABC News Time 5:25.
I'm going down to South Park, gonna have myself a time.
South Park seeing its viewership numbers surge. The second episode of the animated show's latest season drew an initial audience of over 1 million on Comedy Central. That's nearly the double the season premiere initial number. It's also third most viewership for an episode in the past 3 seasons. A big part of this is South Park has been taking aim at the White House and President Trump and his administration in one episode. In another, they should take aim at Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem. Both have spoken about this episode, and so that may have juiced the numbers as well, as people said, oh, right, South Park's still on TV. Let me go turn it on. Mel Gibson's long-awaited sequel to his 2004 film, The Passion of the Christ, is on the way.
Lionsgate confirmed this week that The Resurrection of the Christ will be released in 2027 in 2 parts, with Part 1 coming out Good Friday and Part 2 coming out 40 days later on Ascension Day. Passion star Jim Caviezel is expected to return as Jesus. Other details about the films are being kept under wraps. I'm Monica Nelson.
Bobby Whitlock, the co-founder of the 1970s blues rock band Derek and the Dominoes, he passed away over the weekend. His family announced he died yesterday at his home in Texas at the age of 77 after a brief illness. Whitlock formed Derek and the Dominoes with Eric Clapton back in 1970, releasing the album Layla and other assorted love songs. He also played piano, by the way, on George Harrison's classic album All Things Must Pass. Again, he died at the age of 77.
It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Talking the news with Noam Laden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noam.
On 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me, 5:35. Good morning. It is Monday, August 11th. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. Sunshine today. It's going to be warmer than it has been. Boy, the weekend was just beautiful. I mean, it's not going to be terrible today. High 89, but warmer. Tonight and overnight, clear, low 71. And then Tuesday, sunshine, high 90. If you are walking out the door with us right now, so happy you are. 71 and partly cloudy in New Rochelle up in Westchester County. 66 and partly cloudy in Pompton Lakes over in New Jersey. And it's 69 and clear right outside our Midtown studios. Want to tell you about a big event coming Friday, September 5th. It's the WABC Gala at Cipriani, 42nd Street. Greatest show on earth, kicking off the 250th anniversary of America and celebrating WABC being number one in the country and around the world. There'll be special performances by Lee Greenwood, live entertainment from Tony Orlando, Cousin Brucey, Joe Piscopo, and Vinnie Medugno. There's a limited amount of tickets that are available for purchase at WABCRadioFoundation.org. All proceeds go to the Tunnel for Towers Foundation for Veterans, Shriners Children's, providing exceptional care for every child, regardless of their ability to pay, and the Police Athletic League for inner city kids. So write it down. It's September 5th. It's the WABC Gala at Cipriani, 42nd Street, the greatest show on earth. And if you want to buy them, because these tickets will go fast, WABCRadioFoundation.org. You can get the tickets right there and join everybody from WABC and lots of others who will show up for this big gala. The Brooklyn community coming together over the weekend to bid farewell to Alan Etienne. He's that unarmed security guard that was killed during last month's Midtown Manhattan Park Avenue shooting. They had the funeral for him over the weekend. It was the final funeral of the 4 victims killed that day. Family, friends, fellow security workers, many wearing purple ribbons to represent their union, attended the service. This was at Guarino Funeral Home.
It's a brotherhood of people, just like the NYPD, just like FDNY, just like EMS.
Loved ones describing Etienne as a devoted father and hero who dedicated his life to protecting others.
We're the first line of defense against everybody in New York. It's us versus New York City and whatever comes through that door.
Yeah, so Etienne was buried at the Canarsie Cemetery following that service that was attended by a lot of people over the weekend. A teenager facing charges for a shooting that injured 3 in the heart of the city over the weekend.
A 17-year-old was arrested after shots rang out Saturday morning around 1 a.m. in Times Square. Some people on the streets, including a food cart worker, told Pix 11 they were not really sure what was happening in all the commotion.
We literally thought it was fake. We thought it was like firecrackers.
Of course, I scared. I work outside. I scared maybe shot come to me, kill me. I come from my country because he is safe, but I no see any safe.
The shooter was arrested at the scene. All 3 victims expected to recover. However, the shooter is still facing murder charges since cops say he ended up hitting his intended target. I'm Liz Radabali for 77 WABC News.
From Times Square, let's go over to New Jersey, where over 185,000 remain under a boil water advisory as repairs continue. Water main break in Patterson, Prospect Park, Haledon, North Haledon, all impacted, according to the Passaic Water Commission. It was after a 30-inch pipe broke near Hinchcliffe Stadium in Patterson early Friday, leaving residents, businesses with low water pressure or no water at all. So crews working around the clock all weekend. Officials hope to complete repairs today, but this is, this will be day 3 of either no water or brown water or water you just can't drink.
Pressure is low and it's brown.
Frustration level is extremely high.
Yeah, I bet it is. Portable bathroom shower trailers were made available in Patterson over the weekend. They also opened what they called a comfort zone at John F. Kennedy High School with portable bathrooms. They even added some shower trailers so people could take showers, and there was a fair amount of people who showed up. Of course, they also handed out free water.
The water is affecting me too. I have very low pressure, but I have another house I can go to. Everybody is not fortunate to do that. So I'm glad that we're able to come up and assist.
A big portion of the city is in need and is struggling right now. Lack of water, no water. We never imagined that, people who are in homes or were housed would, need this.
Patterson is an old city.
If we're not back online by Tuesday, we're going to have to cancel those parties.
Yes, that's somebody who owns a catering hall in Patterson. Neighbors who do have water, they're being told to boil it for at least a minute before drinking, preparing foods, mixing baby formula, all those things. But they're telling us they'll have this fixed by hopefully today. But they say once water pressure is restored, and we're talking 185,000 customers, that's no small amount, that the boil water advisory could remain in place for another day or two while the system is tested for bacteria. 541 from New Jersey up to Westchester County. Some wild scenes on the beach in New Rochelle yesterday. Lifeguards ordering swimmers there to go back to shore after some people claimed they saw a shark fin on the water.
A patron came up to me when I was lifeguarding out, walking out on the beach, and they said they saw a fin in the water, and they pointed out to me, and then I saw it. There wasn't much panic. I mean, we didn't tell them right away when they were in the water that there was a shark there. We just kind of blew the whistle for them to come in.
Yeah, that was probably a good call. Better, you don't blow the whistle and say shark. People will panic. So beachgoers say, of course, hearing that there was shark in the water after they were pulled out was frightening to hear.
Came onto the beach around 2 o'clock, and everyone was standing at the shoreline because they were saying that there was baby sharks in the water. It wasn't clear if there was one or more, and they wouldn't let anyone go in the water.
And then they had the park rangers, Westchester County Parks Department workers. They came to the scene, and they wouldn't confirm for us or deny that there was a shark in the water. However, beachgoers who were allowed to remain on the sand after the water was declared off limits say they don't really believe 100% it was a shark.
It was like, oh my God, it's a shark, because you saw the fins. But then everybody around us was like, no, it's a stingray. So my husband's like, no, it's a stingray. I was like, well, that's pretty big. I was like, well, why does it have a fin?
Yeah, so as of last night, we were still waiting for some updated information or a confirmation from the Westchester County Parks Department about whether that was a shark or something else. And it could be they don't really know. 543 from Westchester to Long Island, a Hauppauge man accused in a series of public lewdness and forcible touching incidents facing a slew of charges now. The latest incident happened over the weekend when Franklin Portillo Hernandez was allegedly seen touching himself in a car while trying to talk to a 39-year-old woman in a shopping center there. This is one where they have a Dave & Buster's. He then drove away.
And it makes me feel unsafe with my grandchildren. My granddaughter, she's a teenager, so now it makes me not want to allow her to go to Dave & Buster's with her friends, and this is where they like to hang out at.
Yeah, I don't blame you. Detectives arrested him at his Farmingville home. They linked him now to 2 other earlier incidents, one in May on the Veterans Memorial Highway and another on Friday outside a home on Helen Marie Place.
There's kids here too, and you just can't do that in public.
It's a family place. This is where you come with your family.
Yeah, so Hernandez charged with 2 counts of public lewdness, 1 count of forcible touching, and now police believe there potentially could be other incidents involving him, and so they're asking anybody that may have seen him or had an incident with him to give them a holler. 5:44, police searching for a man in the Bronx. This has been going on for a while, and we don't know if these are all the same person or a number of people, but they've been driving around on mopeds and then going up to people who are got headphones on, that kind of thing, or distracted staring at their phone, and they'll grab your headphones, or they'll grab your phone, and then drive off. And there's not a whole lot you can do. And there was a number of these incidents over the weekend, and they're not sure if it's the same crew, but of course people in the Bronx now say, hey, maybe I should leave my headphone levels a little lower or not wear them at all.
That's very scary because I lived over here 36 years and I never seen that over here.
For me to be looking over my shoulder because there's people that are approaching other people to rob them is insane. I can't even walk around with my headphones.
Yeah, well, you have to look out anyway. So there were 3 incidents with these moped guys, could be the same one, over the weekend, pulling phones or headphones away from people as they walked on the street. And we've been telling you there's a series of 8 or 10 of these robberies during the course of July. Now, whether this is the same people or somebody got the idea for them, that part we don't know. 5:45, let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk, and here's Justin Ella.
Thank you, Noah Maladen. We'll start here on the gridiron in Buffalo. Rookie first-round draft pick Jackson Dart's preseason debut was promising in the New York Giants' 34-25 win over the Bills on Saturday. The outing overall provided the Giants an encouraging glimpse into not only their future with Dart, but also their present with veteran Russell Wilson, also making his playing debut. The 36-year-old Wilson, New York's anticipated season-opening starter, was efficient in running the Giants' quick-strike passing attack by going 6 of 7 for 28 yards in an opening drive, ending with Graham Gano's 53-yard field goal. Dart, New York starter in waiting, closed the half by displaying his arm strength and mobility. Finished 12 of 19 for 154 yards, including a 29-yard touchdown pass to Lil Jordan Humphrey, while adding 3 carries for 24 yards. Up next for the Giants, they'll hold 2 joint practices with the Jets before hosting their Big Apple rivals come Saturday. Speaking of those Jets, they beat up on the Packers in Green Bay on Saturday night. Final score 30-10. Quarterback Justin Fields ran for a 13-yard touchdown to cap a 10-play, 79-yard drive in his lone series. The Jets outgained Green Bay 403-188, forced 4 sacks, and had 2 first-half takeaways that led to 10 points. Wide receiver Alan Lazard left the locker room after the game with his right arm in a sling after injuring his shoulder. Head coach Aaron Glenn, said Lazard will undergo testing to determine the severity. New York running back Isaiah Davis, safety Tony Adams, and running back Kenny Ngugugu. I did my best with that. Also left the game. Glenn doesn't.
That's a great name if it's real. Ngagugu?
N-W-A-N-G-W-U. You try it.
I wouldn't even bother.
Exactly.
I would just skip the story altogether.
Well, all 3 of those guys left the game. He doesn't believe, Glenn, that any of those injuries are serious. To the Diamond in the Bronx, the Yankees fell handily to the Astros 7-1 in their series finale against Houston, dropping 2 of 3 over the weekend to the AL West leaders. Max Fried allowed 4 runs and 8 hits in 5 innings and lost for the 3rd time in 4 starts. The Yankees managed 3 hits and lost for the 7th time in 9 games. They were booed off the field after the final out. They now sit 2.5 games back of the Red Sox for 2nd place in the division, and they're only a half game up on Cleveland for the 3rd and final AL wildcard spot. Up next for the Yanks, Will Warren will get the start in tonight's opener of a 3-game series against Minnesota. First pitch is scheduled for 7:05 p.m. tonight from Yankee Stadium in Milwaukee. The Mets lost 7-6 to the Brewers in the finale of that 3-game weekend set. They get swept by Milwaukee over the weekend. They are idle tonight before opening a 3-game home series against Atlanta. Lost their 7th straight, fell 5.5 games behind NL East leading Philadelphia. They currently sit 1.5 games up on Cincinnati for the 3rd and final NL wildcard spot there. That is your Sports Gnome, and I'm Justin Ellick on 77 WABC.
WABC News Time 5:49. We were told on Friday that July was the safest month in subway recorded history. This according to the MTA and the NYPD. Data from the agency show major felonies felonies in July were down 8% compared to 2024. Felony assaults were down almost 10%. There were no burglaries at all during the month. Officials cite investments in mental health and the scout teams, as well as policing and other measures as protecting riders. But what's so interesting is when you tell riders about this, that it was the safest month in recorded history on the subways, nobody believes you.
What if I told you that July was the safest month in the subway system in recorded history?
I guess I'd be a little surprised, honestly.
I'd somewhat not believe it, but maybe.
Why wouldn't you believe it?
Because it's the subway, you know? It's like, come on.
Yes, so the expansion of these police teams to help those with mental health issues, they say the MTA, that's what's been juicing the numbers, and that's what's bringing them down now that those people are being taken out of subway stations. Schools across New York getting ready to implement bell-to-bell smartphone restrictions this fall. At a roundtable with school leaders, Governor Hochul announced that 86% of the 1,100 New York schools have submitted their cell phone policies as mandated.
We're closing in on that, about 940, and I went to bed last night, it was 920, so the numbers are ticking up.
Hochul says distraction-free schools will improve the classroom environment for students and teachers. Not only are smartphones going to be banned bell-to-bell come September, but kids won't be able to wear Apple Watches or earbuds either.
We'll have distraction-free schools, no cell phones, no Apple Watches, no earbuds. For the duration of the school day, bell to bell.
Yeah, so the governor's been holding these roundtables across the state all summer, including a couple here in New York City, Albany, Central New York, to warn schools that they have to have these plans in place before the school year begins. And, well, now it's just a couple weeks. Out to New Jersey, where police say the cause of that 4-alarm fire that destroyed a century-old synagogue in Rutherford early Friday is undetermined, but they say it's not criminal. The rabbi there says his wife and 6 children barely escaped with their lives.
Literally, I don't want to think if a minute later, if we would have been a minute slower, what heaven forbid would have happened.
What's been nice to watch over the weekend is the Rutherford community has come together to help this synagogue. One synagogue donating a Torah so they could hold services outside on Saturday. The rabbi and his kids, they were taken in by a neighbor when they were chased out by those flames on Friday.
It's just a very old home that may just have burned down.
Yeah, so Bethel is the same synagogue that was firebombed back in 2012. But again, so far, arson investigators, they don't believe there was anything criminal going on here. Did you see this over the weekend? Legendary Yankee closer Mariano Rivera going to need surgery now after tearing his Achilles during an old-timers game at Yankee Stadium on Saturday.
The New York Daily News says the 55-year-old Hall of Famer tore an Achilles tendon while going after a Willie Randolph fly ball to center field. His agent says Rivera will have surgery in the coming week. Rivera spent his entire 19 career with the Yankees and dominated relief pitching with 652 career saves, the most in baseball history. He's considered the greatest reliever of all time. I'm Lisa Carton.
As states like Texas, California, New York, and Illinois spar over gerrymandering, you have Republican Congressman Mike Lawler, who's from the Hudson Valley, says the practice should be banned altogether. The congressman, whose district in the northern suburbs is one of the more competitive in the nation, sat down with Marsha Kramer yesterday on CBS, and he said he plans to introduce a bill that would ban gerrymandering. He believes it would benefit both Democrats and Republicans.
Gerrymandering is a disaster for our country. When you look at 435 House seats, only 35 were decided by 5 points or less last November. Only 35. Mine wasn't one of them. I won by 6.5 points.
Yeah, Lawler criticizing Texas for redistricting that adds 5 GOP seats, and California's pledge to respond with a map to nullify any Republican gains. And so that's why he's going to come forth with this bill that would end gerrymandering.
When you look at the competitive nature of these districts, this is why they're trying to gerrymander across the state. And remember, New York did mid-decade redistricting just last year, and now they want to go for a third bite at the apple.
And now, of course, you see what Texas is doing. California is threatening. This is destructive to the country.
He did not say when this bill will be forwarded, but he says he'll be part of this to stop gerrymandering. 5:55. The community of West Milford, New Jersey, celebrating a hometown hero over the weekend, Jen Powell, who made baseball history. This weekend, she became the first woman to umpire a Major League Baseball regular season game. So she went to West Milford High, where she was an outstanding athlete. Former classmates, current students, they gathered yesterday to cheer her on as she went out onto the field to ump this game. Here's an alumnus from her class of 1995 remembering her.
Forward would come up, try and score on her. She was just so aggressive. She would growl at them. Like, it was awesome. She was the best. She would growl. She would growl.
Yeah, those at the watch party say she's serving as an inspiration for future generations of players.
She was well known because of her sports, but I think she was even more known because of how nice she was to everybody.
Yeah, and even her former high school soccer coach says that he was so bowled over by the fact that she was going to be the first woman ever to ump an actual regular season game that he actually drove from his home in Indiana to Atlanta to be there for the moment.
She spoke to us a little bit when we were taking pictures, just thanking us. But I'd say the one word that describes is appreciation of the situation.
And back at her school last night, students say they're inspired by her.
She achieved her dream, so I want my girls to achieve their dreams and just go for it.
It could be anyone in this entire school, and she made her dreams come true.
She's just like paved the way for like all women.
That could be us one day.
Yeah, there was a cool moment at this game yesterday when she had her first called strike. They stopped the game and they handed the baseball over so that could be a memento, a history-making moment in baseball. And while we're talking baseball, we'll end with this story. It wasn't the ending the town hoped for. St. James Smithtown, the Little League team we had been following all week, they were playing to go to the Little League World Series over the weekend, and if they had won the game, they would have gone to Williamsport, but unfortunately, they lost to Connecticut. But in St. James Smithtown, they held a rally, a parade for the team over the weekend and thanked them for having such a great season. And the players were pretty excited by that.
It's been great support. A lot of people are here. It's been so fun so far. It's been great.
We knew we had something special. I know it was this special, not quite, but they were always really, really good baseball players.
They were even given the key to the town.
All these people have been supporting us throughout the season. Watch parties at home and on TV. It's been great.
Yeah, nice job done by the Little League team there.
Thanks for listening to the News Hour with Noam Laden. You can hear the News Hour with Noam Laden weekday mornings at 5 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?